convention message. Let's bring in Jim DeMint. He's a former U.S. Senator and chairman of the Conservative Partnership Institute, and Donna Edwards, who served 5 terms as a U.S. Congresswoman from Maryland's 4th District, the first African-American woman to represent Maryland in Congress. She's now an NBC News and a MSNBC political analyst. Thanks for joining us. So, Congressman Edwards, let me start with you. I think it's not necessarily like a Rorschach, but I have heard Republicans criticize last week's convention, saying it was dark, it was foreboding, and they've said that. And then now I'm hearing it on the other side. Is that an effective tool just for both parties to call the other's convention a sort of a dark, pessimistic view of the future of the country?
Well, I mean, I think that you only have to listen to the Republican convention to know that. Look, I think that really what was at play here over the last couple of days is just kind of a dip into unreality. It was the unreality convention. I mean, until you got to the First Lady, there was no even acknowledgement of nearly 180,000 people who died of COVID, and let alone any discussion of what a plan is, both to get us out of this and to recover the economy. Those things are intertwined. And so I think that people's reality sitting at home really tells the story of the Republican convention.
I'll go to Jim DeMint, Congressman. Who's got a more optimistic view of the future? You're representing, obviously, the GOP. I guess we might hear a little bit different picture of what you're seeing than what Congressman Edwards is seeing.
I feel like I'm watching a different convention than Congressman Edwards. The last couple of days have just been optimistic and patriotic. We've had a mix of Americans from all walks of life, especially the great speeches from African Americans. The Attorney General from Kentucky last night, Senator Tim Scott. It's just been inspiring for me, and of course the First Lady, I thought, did a wonderful job in a great setting last night. So, and I'm certainly hearing the ideas that I want to hear as far as continuing to grow the economy and move it forward. We know what the president's plan is for coronavirus. He's had regular news conferences on that. We think we'll have a vaccine or at least a very positive treatment very shortly. So like you said going into the show, the sense of normalcy is returning. And that is a good signal for President Trump and the Republicans this fall.
Congressman Edwards, do you have a playbook for Vice President Biden at this point? He's done well, kind of staying out of the limelight to some extent in terms of quarantining. Do you think he needs to get out at this point between now and the election, or do you just sort of try to rest? If he's got a lead, you just try and rest on the lead, not mess that up?
No, I mean, I never believe in prevent defense. And so I think that it's really important for the former vice president to connect with voters in a way that is safe. I mean, he has said and built a campaign on following the science. And if the science says that it's okay to get out and to go around the country, he will. If the science dictates that we should not be having large gatherings and that nature, he will not. But he'll conduct a campaign that's forward-looking. I mean, I fully expect that both he and his running mate, Kamala Harris, are going to be connecting with voters in smaller groups, in forums where they're hearing from experts about things from climate change to moving the economy forward to investing in infrastructure and for a plan for the pandemic. We've actually heard that from the former vice president really since the beginning stages of this pandemic. And I would argue that, in fact, had we had a real plan coming from this administration, we would not have 180,000 Americans dead and probably approaching 200,000 by the time we get to November 3rd. And so just because you say that you have a plan and just because you put faces of African Americans and Latinos and showing diversity, the policies that have been reflected by the Trump administration simply have not played that out in reality for people's lives. And I think that Joe Biden is going to get out there and tell the truth to the American people and present a plan going forward.
So, Congressman DeMint, I guess it's possible that the Republicans could push back and say, look, we have made very difficult choices and no deaths are acceptable. But the economy is important, too. It's tough to make that argument when you're talking about human life. But can they make that argument? We've had these jobs numbers 3 straight months that have been pretty good. The GDP number might look pretty good. Will that resonate? That the deaths are, I mean, I think President Trump said it is what it is. Obviously, he got a lot of criticism for that. But there has always been a very delicate balance between trying to keep, the economy from being absolutely decimated and human life and the cost of human life. Can they walk that fine line?
I think the president can easily walk that line using science as well as economics. All the data shows us, if we're really going to use the science, that the deaths have primarily come with folks over 80. Going back to work, back to school, we have not seen that cause additional deaths. When there's a report of spikes, that's hardly ever associated with an increase in the death rate. The thing is that we do have science now, and children are not at risk. You've got folks healthy, working-age Americans are not at risk. We can go back to work here without endangering people, and we need to take care of those who are at risk. We're learning to do that all across the country. I think older folks who are at risk know that they need to be much more careful than others. But we've got the formula, and as we go back to work, as jobs come back, we see the death rate continue to decline. Treatments are improving, and people are going to lose that sense of fear. And as they feel more of a sense of normalcy, yes.
Just to follow up on this, I know you think we're getting to a sense of normalcy. 1,000 deaths a day, even though that's lower than it used to be, is I think very hard for most Americans to think of being normal. And to the extent that you want to follow the science, I think empirically, no matter what your politics are, the president disregarded the science for so very many months when it came to testing. He explicitly said he wanted less testing, not more. He told people that masks were not necessary and didn't want to, irrespective of whether Fauci or others early on didn't think that masks were necessary. When they did, he said the opposite. Why do you think that the American public, when it comes to the science piece of this, or this idea of normalcy, are going to look at this and say that everything is great? I don't understand that. I'm trying to do this. I don't know if I can say it, but apolitically, just empirically.
Well, again, I don't know what information you're going from. I think you're watching too much of the news that's reported falsely. The president responded much quicker than some of the governors did, blocking travel from China. He implemented a national effort to get more masks and ventilators. If you go down the list, he had accomplished more in a short period of time. Senator, you still cannot get an N95. Most consumers today cannot buy an N95 mask. If you want to buy an N95 mask today, it'll cost you something on the order of $10 to $12 a mask, if you can even get access to one. And there are still hospitals and medical people who need them around the country who still can't get masks. And we are 5 months into this pandemic. The medical professionals that we're hearing from all around the country are thanking Trump for his response. We've heard that from nurses and others during the convention. So I guess we'll have a different opinion on this, and the people will make that decision in November. But you can't blame the president for the virus. And again, I think the medical information has been slow in getting to us, and the media has done a very poor job of reporting who is mostly at risk. And now the question of going back to school is just obviously ignoring science. We need to get our country back to normal. And except for folks who are older, the coronavirus, certainly it is taken some lives, but generally with comorbidities that we all know about. And so healthy working age Americans are at very little risk. Now, it's terrible to lose anyone from any disease, but I think Americans are starting to see the truth, and that's why the fear is subsiding, they know they can go outside and go back to work and with very little risk to themselves.
All right.